Hello everyone, my name is Nicholas and I'm a part of the Gatehouse Network International. I'm based here in Germany now. I'm originally from Toronto and have been involved with the Gatehouse Network International, or GNI, for just over a year now. And as my research, I've been focusing a lot on resources that are available here in Germany, as well as some other countries within Europe. And recently, I've branched out into some resources in places like New Zealand. Some of the resources, or what what I've begun doing here in Germany, is speaking with professionals that work with survivors of childhood sexual abuse, namely with social workers, with educators, as well as with psychologists in universities, as well as private organizations, and seeing what they do, what they offer, as well as looking online. And in some cases, I've established contact by email, and others I've called people. Here in this part of Germany where I'm living, in my city called Munster, there's an organization called Zartbitte, which offers programming for youth and children, as well as for adults, and both men and women. And similar to the Gatehouse, they do have a lot of group therapy sessions or group discussion sessions. One of the main differences actually here is much of the approach is a little bit more on the side of a medical approach with psychologists, clinical psychologists, or something that's more along the ways of social work, not exactly like at the Gatehouse with volunteers. So it's group discussion, however they're led by therapists or educators rather than by volunteers, but similar ideas. And then they also do preventative work with schools, as well as certain media campaigns and so forth. Also here in Munster, there's the Red Cross, and they operate what they call an ambulance, or like a mobile clinic, so to speak, educating on issues of childhood sexual abuse and prevention thereof, working with survivors, typically children and their families, and offering advocacy and support. And that is actually run by volunteers. Within Germany, nationwide, there are a bunch of other programs. There's certain centers in larger cities, like in Munich, one that I've researched about and have done some translations on, which works with men, and they offer programming, group sessions usually on different topics, but one that they offer is dealing with men who have been sexually abused as children, adolescents, as well as adults, as well as another one for men who have committed sexual offenses, and that's some programming that they do. There's also too in that area of this prevention, but working with those who may have a tendency to commit abuse, or who may be afraid, or so on and so forth, have certain sexual attractions. There is in Germany what's called Project Dunkelfeld, and that is a really interesting project that is operating in many different large cities throughout the country, and they offer individualized as well as group therapy sessions with men who have certain attractions to children as well as to adolescents, and looking at ways of preventing the likelihood that they will act on these attractions, and to develop a rational acceptance of what they're attracted to, as well as an understanding of the responsibility they have and the agency that they have, and acting out that responsibility, or not acting on those attractions that they have. So looking at a very progressive approach to prevention. There's also too, in another area, but working, I guess, more on intervention instead of prevention. I've been in contact and have spoken with an organization based in Berlin, sorry, called Help for Boys, and they operate different projects. And often work with street youth, as well as children with immigrant backgrounds that are in the country. Many of the people who they help don't actually speak German, and so they operate offering in their services in many different languages. And they have two projects. One is working specifically with boys and young men who have been sexually abused in different settings, such as with sex work, so to speak, and as youth or as young men, and providing counseling and other information that they may want to receive. And there's also another project that is mobile, and they're traveling around and educating through different ways. Some of it is through theater, others is through different group activities, educating young boys and young men about the right that they have to protect their bodies, and about sexual abuse, what that is exactly, and what they can do to at least inform themselves about how to protect themselves, or where to go to get help if something has happened, or they've heard of something that has happened, and so forth. So it's a very education-based approach, sorry. And they also operate too in many public places where they might find people, or they might go out in places where street youth tend to congregate. And then they also have other projects in that they provide a space for street youth, or for people who maybe for whatever reason um, want to receive some sort of help, or an open space, a safe space outside of their home. And they offer services similar to a shelter, and that is also coupled with this work of providing information on sexual abuse. Often many young boys as well as girls that will go onto the streets, or that are brought into this country from other countries, will tend to find themselves in very vulnerable situations, and sex work, especially sexual exploitation of minors, is something that happens. And so this is an attempt to address that. I've also been in contact with other individual therapists and educators. I have received the books by Tom Wilkin. Thank you, Tom, if you're there. I really appreciate these. I've shown these to a number of people, and they're very interested in that. And this particular approach, and I would really like to find some sort of a situation, or an opportunity to translate this work and this particular course, and find some sort of a setting, and that we can implement that in Germany, or at least make it available to different service providers if they ever would like to use it. And in addition, lately, actually just yesterday, I sent out a contact, and have established contact with a new umbrella organization for resources for adult male survivors of sexual abuse in New Zealand. There's a new umbrella organization called Male Survivors of Sexual Abuse Trust, Aotearoa, New Zealand. And so I have extended the GNI invitation to them, as well as to several other people here in Germany. I hope that you all have a very enlightening time at this conference, a very great experience, and I hope that a lot of new networks are made and new friendships are built, and I really hope that many of you leave this conference feeling very empowered and very inspired. It was a great experience to be there last year, and I look forward to my future endeavors and my future work with the Gatehouse, and possibly with some of your other organizations. Take care, everyone.